Hi. This video is something that I made a few years ago for my modern philosophy class. We were reading Spinoza, and I decided to help my students out by just making this very quick explanation of the logic of Spinoza's proof for Proposition 5 from Part 1 of the Ethics. I'm just going to present it to you here as I made it and sent it to my students. I do interrupt it twice just to post excerpts from Spinoza on the screen. It's very short, and I hope you like it. If you like this sort of content and think I should make more of it, just please leave me a comment down below. Here's the video. Hello guys. I wanted to walk you through what I think is the logic of Spinoza's Proposition 5 from Part 1 of the Ethics. This is where Spinoza tries to prove that in the universe there cannot be two or more substances of the same nature or attribute. This is a key premise in his later proofs for the uniqueness of substance. Here's Proposition 5 and Spinoza's argument for it, if you want to pause and read them before going on. And here's my way of walking through what he says in the proof. This is going to be a proof by contradiction. So we begin by assuming the falsehood of what we wish to prove. Suppose there did exist two substances with the same attribute, the same what we might call essence. Since they are two substances, they're distinct, by assumption, they're not a single substance, they're not identical, they must differ in some way. There must be some difference between them which we can describe. They must differ, therefore, either in attribute or in affections. And if you look back at Spinoza's definitions of substance, attribute, and affection at the beginning of Part 1, I think you'll find that these really are the only possible options. There's no third way in which two substances could differ, though I would invite you to try to think up whether there is anything missing in premise 3 here. Here are the definitions of substance, attribute, and affection if you want to reason through this for yourself. So premise 4, let's consider the first option. Suppose they differ in attribute. In that case, they are two substances that have two different attributes, which contradicts the assumption we began with, that we are dealing with two substances that have one attribute. Okay, so that line of reasoning is closed off to us. Take the second line of reasoning. If there are two substances which differ in affections, then we should remember, says Spinoza, that substance is ontologically prior to its affections. This also follows from his definitions. So the difference in affections is not a difference between the substances as substances, so to speak, but a difference in them at some farther on, more distant, more remote sense. So they're not truly distinct. They're not distinct as two substances. They are, in fact, a single substance with a single attribute. But this also contradicts the assumption with which we began. Okay? And note here, what he's doing is showing that either way we try to think out the logical consequences of there being two substances with a single attribute, we realize that either they turn out to be two substances with two attributes, or they turn out to be the same substance with the same attribute. We can't maintain that duality of substance with that unity of attribute when we begin to reason out from his definitions just what's going on. So my premise 6 here, since both possibilities in 3 lead to contradicting 1, which we began with assuming to be true, we reject that initial assumption. We conclude then the opposite of it. There cannot be two substances that have the same attribute. That's just the denial of 1. So that's the way the proof works. That, I think, is Spinoza's logic. You'll note again how much he really leans on having these prior definitions, which he thinks are clear and direct, of substance, attribute, affection, etc. So I hope this helps. Maybe we'll discuss this proof in more detail in a later class. Thanks for watching.